wait a second. I'm not gonna be maybe the vanilla flavor of the day because I might be a little bit also provocative. I just hope you love my strawberry moon and that you appreciate that I am actually in a conference where I'm gonna give a keynote on what if imagination was the missing superpower. I leave it there. I think the introduction by Violetta almost was already launching an echo far, far away, and I hope I will just amplify it with these few slides. Why rethinking leadership? I think that we need to realize, and I heard the word style, and I've been teaching leadership for 5 years, the last 120 years of leadership, and how leadership is basically a resonance of societal response to all the strain. So when we are rebuilding after Second World War, we have transactional leadership. If we are more trying to make, realizing we are coming to the end of an economic era, we need transformational leadership. And now we're realizing that in the 21st century, we have some issues with mental health, so we need more conscious leadership. So leadership does not exist as a trend or as a convenience or commodity. It is an answer, a collective societal answer to really impressive challenges that we're going through. And at times, I think we're a little bit too lenient, equally too demanding on our leaders. So let me try and explore a little bit, saying that leadership is much more than a style, much more than something linked to inspiration and to the person, and that it needs to orchestrate attention, intention, and trust across system. I will not expand more because Violetta, you did it with such a level of articulation, but indeed we have facing tech complexity from basic digital literacy all the way to various cosmological evolution, including post-transhumanism, whatever that means. I would be delighted to expand if needed or wanted. We live in a highly polarized world, and it takes enormous courage to engage with transparency and accountability without antagonizing and being victim of the toxic polarization of the world. So that's really generate a lot of human pain. That would be my three top, let's say, plea and reason why we need to look further. The tricky slide is this one. It took me a night of white night to decide whether I put it or not, because it's a little bit, going against the trend. I think we have to really reflect actively, consciously, collectively, how far more do we want to promote so-called, which I think particularly inadequate semantic soft skills, which are probably the hardest to acquire and propagate. At the same time, it is my value proposition to say that maybe we are reaching the limit of this trend of ever more soft skill and the promotion of ever more soft skill, because soft skills don't help redesign system, and we have a cross-system design mega challenge. They don't help to upscale at really large scale capabilities that they are processes, technological, financial, human, that does not work so well. Oftentimes, we notice that we have the elected one who are said to be, soft champion, and the others who are not. It's very intuitive and personal, and it's extremely difficult to replicate. So that really creates a little bit some difficulty to reach. And also there is a little bit an issue that around soft, which I prefer to call behavioral skills, as far as I'm concerned, we have a problem of diagnostic, measurement, and engineering. And so all relevant, all important, absolutely to be kept, but to be transcended to where I believe we need to move much more, namely the physics of leadership. And if we, and under the agency of such a beautiful name, Ecocivilisation, we want less ego and more echo, we need to kind of look at things at a more elementary level and more like physicist and engineer rather than just social scientists that at times do lack methods. I do judge. And if we are really daring to look at it and look at the particle level of leadership, how leadership is a field, how leadership is a network, how leadership has loops, we start to see that there is a physics of leadership. Of course, in the 10 minutes I have, which is just an impulse and it's just a provocation, I cannot go at length and it's not a class, but I do put here to this circle the need to be a little bit more, particle élémentaire. We need to really go and check a little bit what could leadership learn from physics. As a natural system, and I really particularly appreciated 3 or 4 years ago, I wrote with my student, what about if orga chart were circular and not, the traditional hierarchical orga chart? So when you spoke, and the article can be found on the web, very much beaming into the same space as Violetta explained, that we need to really look at ecosystem, and we can really see it. Natural sciences can really inform us about how an ecosystem function at its best, so we can do biomimicry in order to be much more astute at defining leadership from that perspective. Neurons, I mean, there are beautiful people on this call, also very active in AI. We know that the recent Nobel Prize in Physics was somebody who has really looked into the neuronal power of looking at it, and how this has influenced modern LLM and modern ways of looking at artificial intelligence. Thermodynamics, when energy gets lost, the system gets poor, the leadership that gets lost gets engineer very poor system, and there are a lot of burnout in the team. So we can also learn from thermodynamics, what is the trigger, how does it work, what's the mechanic of burnout from an absolutely purely real science, natural science perspective. And of course, beautifully equally, homeostasis, the absolute equilibrium. So when we have team stability and we can find mechanics to regulate and adapt on the go in order to be much more responsive and regenerative. So when we look at engineered leadership, my idea is that it can really help us move away from change washing, because I've seen it so many times. I'm a young old woman, and I have seen so many period of 5 years of leaders wherever I've been working, that I've been really in for slogans, and that's how I characterize, or the few characteristics I give of change washing. It's very optical. It looks good. It could feel good. Whether it does good is very questionable. In contrast, engineered leadership focuses much more on an inquiry mindset, asking question, open question, and looking into how this evolves, trusting the process, that who is around the table, the pieces of answers that are given, however sloppy or chaotic. And I guess that Natasha, chaos and order is a beautiful way of looking at leadership in the art sector. Is really important. So we need to get this sort of ways of looking at it in a much more dynamic, in a much less stable, let's say, like with metrics that look good, or that speak to those who have ordered the metrics, but that do not tell whether those who inhabit the system, be they human or any living being beyond the human that are part of the system, how does that affect or impact them? So there is really a lot that we are in need of rethinking, so that we are not, we have the money, we have the intelligence, we have the people, we have the channels, but it seems that we are telling ourselves a story that blocks our way. And I think imagination and emergence and anything that is bringing some ideas that were not networked before, and there I perfectly go with Rosaire about how much AI can be an incredible interface to bring the power of collective intelligence. For me, since I am prompting, and I do a little parenthesis that I had not planned, but I feel prompted by your intervention, Rosa, is that now that I've been prompting for 3 years and I'm teaching I realize how much the machine not only learns from passive knowledge, from active networking of knowledge, but also from the collective intelligence of the repository of all the prompts that that particular model has been making an inventory of. And so now it does not only predict thoughts, it also it predicts knowledge or data or information. It also predicts the thought process. And that is a fast forward for scenario building and for prototyping that we so much need in order to address the challenges of our times. So really there is a lot we can do, and not over romanticize the soft and the loving part of things, and really live up to the love that we are designed to experience and broadcast as human being, but at the same time do acknowledge that natural sciences and engineering and AI or technology in general bring an incredible contribution to kind of finally make the shaker cocktail, pour the divine drink that maybe brings us a little bit on the other side of the pond we seem to be paddling in for a while. So I would like to propose that we need to move a little bit beyond the style of leadership being a style to leadership being an opportunity for engineering an interesting future, whereby our inner engineering, individual and collective, meet emergence in order to be able to imagine alternative pathways so that we are honoring the true circularity, natural way of any living system to operate. And that's for me, let's say, the summary of where I really believe we have to kind of connect the dot. And I am extremely grateful to you, Mar, and to all those who are, beaming in this space and trying to create vibration, resonance. We know what the beautiful Nikola Tesla and other Einstein have said about all these dimensions. So it's time now to give all of this body, mind, soul, heart, so that we are trying to make leadership not a role, but a system of relationship geared to turn complexity into collective wisdom. Happy Strawberry Moon.
Thank you, Valerie. With no doubt, it will be a happy strawberry webinar with you. We ask you to bring your take on innovation and leadership, and you bring a whole study on that. Thank you so much for taking the time and for bringing so a wonderful and somehow bold position on what is innovation that I love it. I love it. Yeah, I will tell you why, because in soft power, I think exactly the contrary. So we need a debate on that, because I think the contrary. So I love this because it's the different position of the soft power, not soft power. So we need it. So, and when you talk about change washing, this is extremely important, and that's why we are here. So we make change or not, and how we do it. We focus on how, but we forget that sometimes the change is already there, but not on the correct way. So this is very important, and don't forget that change washing is so in appearance, you say, and not in architecture, but is a political agenda. Don't forget about that. I always highlight that as a political analyst. I cannot forget that element. But this is really important. Thank you so much, Valerie, for this wonderful study. And we are going to have your article for the book 2026. So anything will be lost. It would be in the article. More comments on that? Yes, about Valerie. Yeah, Natasha, Violeta, please. Yes, Violeta, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much for also bringing forward such a fresh language. I think that is also one thing we absolutely need, is to come up with new expressions that we could use in leadership and explain better what's happening. And this sort of triangle of inner engineering and emerging leadership and circular systems design offers a beautiful space within which we could imagine something new. So thank you very much for presenting that. And I would invite you to repost your definition of leadership that was on the last slide in the comments, that we could see it, because it's a really a new, fresh one. So thanks, and I hope we will continue to collaborate, because it's quantum physics, Nikola Tesla, and this kind of elements are bringing such a fresh view into how to understand the society, and humanity and science need to come closer in order to be able to then understand the complexity of systems around us. So
for sure, for sure. Let's take it as just the first webinar of many others exchange. Someone else would like to add comment? Yes,
Veronica, I think, is raising her hand.
Yeah, Veronica.
Yeah, hi, thank you, Valerie. I really like your stance of not romanticizing leadership, because many times we romanticize it. Yeah, I want to ask you, if you were an elementary school teacher, so you're talking with kids, yeah? And how would you explain children what you talk about leadership and the soft skills, that they are not the only thing we need? I think it's very interesting, your point.
So I think that with small children, they understand so much more and so much better than we do, because they are still much closer to being a well of energy. And so they do have, and they are leader of their own life big time, much more than us. So they need to constantly channel and direct themselves. We don't realize it and we don't appreciate it. I'm particularly close to people who are atypical, or who are never, standing still, or who have very active body or mind. And the leadership effort they do on themselves to connect to the system, to connect to their community, to connect to their parents, to their peers, is an act huge of self-leadership. So when you speak to children and you help them understand leadership viewed from the notion of connection. How do they connect to themselves, and how do they connect to their community? Interestingly, they click very quickly. They understand that it is an effort. It is not for a given. And when everything goes wonderful, they don't think of it, but they are very, very close to the definition of, when you say crisis and chance, they know that when the particle they inhabit, or they are inhabited by, burst in all direction, the connection gets lost, the system gets hot, the tension gets the thermodynamics is extremely concrete. And so if you take it from really what they experience and how hard it is to be a child and in today's world, where attention is divided, intention are confused, you can really bring them very quickly by getting their day-to-day challenges, and really appreciate how much they are self-leading themselves. I think we underestimate that. The same as youngsters, I teach really quite a number every year, and I'm really totally admiring the next generation leader, how many challenges they have to face, and how incredibly talented they are at navigating complexity and confusion. It is just that we, the following generation, may not have the code to appreciate it and mirror to them the idea that they get lost, while to me they are auf Deutsch die Wegweiser, although they are showing the path. And that really we need to kind of revisit. And I thank you for your question, Veronica, that one thing that if we keep one thing is we can never know and feel, and this is why this soft story activate me, we can never know what another experience, feel, think, goes through, unless we really take the time to stop, to apprehend, and to listen. The same for small kids, the same for young adults. And really, this is I would say the secret is to go and take the time, be curious, and try and get a little glimpse of empathy that's more mental, and ideally compassion, because then you feel with what the other is going through, you know. So that's how I would go about it.
Thank you.
Emotions.
Sorry, maybe I was too long-winded, but you
No, it was
pressed
fantastic.
the button, Veronica.
Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. Thank you.
It's wonderful that you both bring emotions to what is leadership. No, we have been about engineer architecture, and now we say emotions. So what's the role of emotions in a future of a new innovative leadership? Thank you both. And anyone wanted to say anything else? Yes, Eleonora, please.
Valérie, thank you very, very much. It was very, very inspiring. I have no question, but I have a comment. I appreciated your presentation very much, and especially at the end, you talk about inner engineering, and you talk develop self-reflection, personal integrity, and ecosystem awareness. And the other two parts were emergent leadership and circular system design. And as you spoke, I wrote a thought, and because I love very, very much this idea of personal integrity that is absolutely lacking in these times. And I think we need a new commitment to integrity, because too many organizations and teams lead outside integrity. They say one thing, but they practice another. The values on the wall are not aligned with the reality of our behavior, and that is not leadership. And we need to be fair. I'm okay with humanity, but I'm not okay with lack of transparency. And you also mentioned transparency. I like it very, very much. I want to tell you this. Thank you very much.
If I can have one word, I think we on ethics, I'm very, very strong on this. That's another what I call suitcase term. We need again to go back to the particle level. Ethics. Do you know the number of ethical, like, you know, all these personality tests? Do you know your personality ethical profile? Are you a consequentialist? Are you principle driven? Are you, you know, what sort of ethicist are you? Do you believe in, or do you default to? Maybe for another seminar, Mar, but I really think we need to be deconstructing and rebuilding and really being much more specific. We are too much suitcase term, and that kills the conversation. That's also what you mentioned earlier, Violetta, the importance of semantic as something that locks you in the prison of the past, or that opens the door of the cage to fly to a brighter future.